أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق ونور عرش أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبنا وسيدنا وسندنا وشفيعنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in whose name I begin with, deserves all praise. And He tells us in the Holy Quran in Surah Ibrahim, Alif Lam Ra, Kitabun Anzalnahu Ilayka لتخرج الناس من الظلمات إلى النور بإذن ربهم إلى صراط العزيز الحميد. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلى الله على محمد وعلى محمد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that this is a book which we have revealed to you, meaning Kitabun Anzalnahu Ilayka لتخرج, so that you may bring forth men from darkness into light. Dhulumati ila nur. And as we know, dhulumat is plural, nur is singular. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows that there are many deviations in life, but there is only one pathway, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah gives us that similitude in Surah An-Nur, where He says, Allahu nuru samawati wal ard, mathalu nurihi kamishkatin fiha misbah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the similitude that He is the light, and everything other than Allah is misguidance. And what is this nur? We would like to discuss it. Yesterday I touched on the issue of womanhood, especially Khadija al-Kubra, salamullahi alayha. As you know, she was a great personality who really financed the entire mission of Islam. That today we have the Islam that we have in its perfect form. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave that final revelation, series of revelations to the Holy Prophet, says, اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfected this religion, that perfection which you and I are its beneficiaries, because Allah intends to guide us, for Allah will never create us without guidance. Even the insect, as you know, kingdom, even every creature that exists in the universe is guided. We know that even from scientific observations, we find that even animals know what to do to survive. That comes instinctually, but it's still a guidance system. So Allah guides even the insects, the animals, even guides an electron on what to do, guides a proton on what to do, guides a neutron on what to do. How can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not guide one of the greatest creations in the universe? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's guidance comes, of course, as the Quran, a revelation which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in various ways applies. It calls it Al-Furqan, that which deciphers wrong from right. For in this world, in a world of trials, one of the key functions of guidance is to be able to discern a confusing issue and to clarify it. Allah has a very elegant system, and He clarifies it very well. Even when He sends prophets and messengers, He sends them to us with the language of its people. Allah says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ الرَّسُولِ إِلَّا بِلِسَانِ قَوْمِهِ لِيُبَيِّنَ لَهُمْ. Allah sends messengers with the language of its people so that they can explain it to them clearly. So the object of our trial in this world is to be guided and for us to accept the guidance. The Quran is a book which shows us the dynamics of this guidance. And as I mentioned yesterday, the Quran is a series of revelations which reflect in many different ways events that took place over the 23 years of the Holy Prophet's life when the Quran was being revealed in stages. Inshallah, the next nights in this rest of the month of Ramadan, I will discuss the stages of the Quran, how the Quran was revealed, and why is the Quran understood to have been a book that was revealed over a span of 23 years, whereas the Quran also was revealed in one night. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ. Here it's the collective, alaykum salam. It is the collective revelation of the entire Quran. So how is it possible that one is done over a span of 23 years. Shukran. Thank you. And then another is that we know the Quran was revealed in one night. We will talk about that. But the interesting thing is that the Quran was revealed contextually. So meaning the verses came down contextually, meaning when there was an event, somebody made a comment, something happened, somebody laughed at somebody. Like one of the wives of the Prophet, you see, was laughing at another wife of the Prophet. She was making fun of her because her dress wasn't sitting properly. And Allah said, وَلَا نِسَاءٌ مِّن نِسَاءٍ عَسَىٰ يَكُنَّ خَيْرًا مِّنْهُنَّ لَا يَسْخَرْ قَوْمٌ مِّن قَوْمٍ عَسَىٰ يَكُونُ خَيْرًا مِّنْهُمْ. One group should not laugh at another group, perchance you're better than the other. And Allah exemplifies it further, وَلَا نِسَاءٌ مِّن نِسَاءٍ عَسَىٰ يَكُنَّ خَيْرًا مِّنْهُنَّ وَلَا تَلْمِزُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Don't find faults in each other. وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ بِئْسَ الْإِسْمُ الْفُسُوقُ بَعْدَ الْإِيمَانِ. And don't give each other bad names. The religion of akhlaq, the religion of modesty, the religion of guidance, this is the example. So you find the Quran was revealed contextually over 23 years, not because the Quran is in need of such context. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful to allow us to understand the depth of the message. Though the context which the verses were revealed at those moments are not locked in on those moments, which is what makes the Quran a universal book as a timeless book, is that essence of what is being described about a group laughing at another is a universal message that you and I should not laugh at each other regardless of what time it is. Because morality is not bound in time. When people say about haya, modesty, people say, in our modern times, our women should express themselves differently. Hijab may not necessarily be important. Because we're in the 21st century. We're more educated. See? We're more informed. So we understand human psyche better than the past. So we don't need this hijab, people say. You find that those who say that are the biggest violators of morality. They're the ones who are conceiving illegitimate children. Even Hollywood is having actors having weddings of the very woman that conceived the child who's attending the wedding. And that's normal. Look at how normal it is today for couples to live together for long periods of time out of wedlock. Thinking it's okay, it's an expression of freedom. Actually, it's an expression of myopic visions. It's an expression of ignorance. Because by all common standards, you never get into a transaction without contracts. Any simple-minded person will tell you, you don't get into a business transaction without a contract. You crazy? Because then it'll be, I said, you said, I thought, you thought. And the next thing you're suing each other and killing each other, because after the event has taken place, it's much harder to get into a contractual agreement. Contractual agreement should be prior to the transaction. It's logical, it's very common sense. Hence marriage is a sacred institution, not because it is something to be violated over time, because now we have evolved to higher thinkings and standards. Morality transcends time. So when we say that marriage should be contracted before conception, it's the same as a business transaction should be contracted before a transaction. Otherwise, what agreements do you have? Even a store, if it doesn't have a refund policy, if it doesn't have its policies noted by the register, the customer has the right to come and complain. Because if that policy is not noted, then the transaction could go in any direction. So when we talk about marriage, it's the same thing. When we talk about hijab and a woman's indecency or a man's indecency, it has no bound in time. So the Quran, if you notice, when Allah says to take you out of darknesses into light, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, these are the guidelines. Follow these guidelines. You are the ones who will be the beneficiaries. You are the ones who will be happy. So in the month of Ramadan, Allah puts us in a transaction by which to fast, by which to abstain from our regular desires, to heighten our alertness, and also to understand the dynamics. But fundamentally, in my opinion, besides all these factors that are necessary, and the fact that the Quran is pragmatic in its approach by revealing to us in gradual forms, and Allah mentions we reveal this Quran in gradual forms also, to enable you to absorb it better, to enable you to understand it better, to enable you to go back in history and see the context of why the verse was revealed, so that as an analogy you and I can understand the context of our modern life on how to apply it today. Look at the rahmah of Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us two kinds of verses, muhkamat and mutashabihat. And Allah says, muhkam is ummul kitab, wa ukharu mutashabihat. That the decisive verses in the Quran are clear to you. They are non-ambiguous usually. But although on a grander scale, even the mutashabihat, which are supposedly ambiguous, are really not ambiguous. It's that the Quran is using various methods of approaching the idea so that you and I can grasp it better, because the Quran wants to cover all dimensions of discussions, and hence Quran has given us two kinds of verses. We'll talk about that some other time. The important point here is to understand that at the end of the day, the Quran being the book that it is, and its perfection, it's the only book in the world, divinely revealed, where Allah, meaning God. By the way, the name Allah is not an exclusive Muslim name. Many a times non-Muslims tell us, this God you have called Allah. They don't even say it properly, Allah. It's Allah, they say Allah. This God that you have, who's this God? I always say to them, if you're a Christian, have you ever been to a Christian church that's Arabic? You'll find the pastor or the priest speaks about Allah. God in Arabic, even in the Christian church, is Allah. So I said, you're very ignorant in what you're thinking Allah is an exclusive Muslim God. It's the name of Allah, means the God, even in Arabic. It's in Arabic, so even the Christians use it. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us about Allah and describing us about who He is, you see, our obligation is to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us universal principles by which to follow, applicable to all of mankind. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals Himself in the Quran for us to understand, and it is the only revealed book in the world, where Allah, meaning God, is the author from cover to cover. Subhanallah. The Bible doesn't have it, the Torah doesn't have it, the Sanskrit doesn't have it, the scriptures of other religions. No one has a book where God is talking cover to cover. Subhanallah. You would think, honestly, and I say this often, that one of the first conditions, even if I was to concoct a religion, it would be to pretend that God is talking. Subhanallah, not a religion in the world has even figured that one out. Because of how myopic we are in our visions, even when we concoct religions, we give them names of people and objects. We can't even name it properly. Islam is the only religion that is named properly. And ironically, as you know, today it's the most vilified religion in the world, called a terrorist religion, when in fact its name means peace. What an irony. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bottom line, my brothers and sisters, what really counts when we talk about all these issues, the Quran in its perfect form, its constant eloquence, and you notice that the emphasis is Tawheed. Allah is supreme. In the Quran, no one is supreme. No nation is supreme, no tribe is supreme, not even the supremacy of the Quraysh is mentioned in the Quran. Allah says, وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُحَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ. The foremost are the Muhajirin and Ansar. Allah is describing a group of people, not nationalism, not Qurayshis. No. Although Allah has chosen a family, above all, Quran even mentions Ibrahim and his generation, chosen. But that's prophethood, that's appointment, when God appoints you. But as a general principle, you find the Quran has a general principle that even prophets who are chosen by Allah, even imams who are chosen by Allah, are subject to the same rules and conditions that all of us are applied to, which is to be submissive to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and arrogance is unacceptable, even to a prophet. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even mentioned that if this messenger of mine, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, were to intrude in the Quran with his right hand, we would grab him and cut his jugular vein. Meaning even he has no authority in the intrusion when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealing what He wants us to know. That means even the Prophet is not allowed to intervene in the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. SubhanAllah. Look at the perfection of a religion where a human being cannot